Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to a daily quiz video for today. Before we go and start discussing the questions, there are a few important announcements. We are bringing to you a series of offline workshops in multiple cities across the country on the 1st of October, that is tomorrow. This workshop will be 5 to 7 pm, before which you can also give a mock test from 4 to 5 pm to check your preparation for the UPSC Prelims examination. As I said, this workshop will be in multiple cities. We have one in Pune. Similarly, if you are in Bangalore, please don't forget to join this workshop. The address is given over here. And then the third workshop that we have will be in Jaipur. Also, if you are not in any of these cities, you can still join us for our online live workshop on the 1st of October, that is tomorrow 6 pm, where I will be discussing with you the 10 most important books to read for the UPSC Civil Service examination and how to read them in the most effective manner. This workshop will exclusively be on the BYJU'S Exam Prep app, so don't forget to download that app as well if you have not done so till now. Also, today is Friday, so today is a turn of the explained session at 8 pm live on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to join for that as well. This live session will be on the topic of cheetah's reintroduction into India. Now let's start with the first question of the day. Consider the following statements with regards to IMEI, that is International Mobile Equipment Identity Number. Number 1. Every phone or mobile broadband device has this unique 13-digit code that precisely identifies the device. Second, mobile phone manufacturers assign the IMEI number to each device based on the ranges allocated to them by the Global System for Mobile Communication Association, also known as the GSM Communication Association. Third, the dual SIM phones will have two IMEI numbers. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Now, I'm sure most of you would be aware of IMEI. These are actually numbers which are the unique identity of your mobile device. You can find out the IMEI number of your mobile device. All that you have to do is press *#06# on your mobile and it will be displayed on your screen. Now, usually, I'm sure if you have exchanged your phones on online sales such as Amazon, Flipkart, etc., you would need to enter your IMEI number. This is where most of you would be aware of it. The first statement is actually wrong. It's a 15-digit code and not a 13-digit code. The second and the third statements are correct. If you are using a dual SIM phone, you will notice it will display two IMEI numbers and not just one. That is why the correct answer here is C. 2 and 3 are correct. The first statement is wrong. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the Department of Telecommunications has made it mandatory for mobile phone manufacturers to register the IMEI of all the handsets made in India with the Government of India, so that if the Government of India wants, they can actually find the location and the identity of that mobile phone user. The article tells you that dual SIM phones have two IMEI numbers, one for each SIM card. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to Pacific Island countries. Number 1. The Pacific Island countries are a cluster of 14 states which are located largely in the tropical zone of Pacific Ocean between Asia, Australia and the Americas. Second, some of them have exclusive economic zones larger than that of India. Third, some of the major nuclear weapon test sites of US, UK and France were located here due to remoteness of these islands from the Soviet Union and major population centers of the world. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D. All the three given statements here are correct. These Pacific Island nations are actually spread over multiple very small islands. Because many of these nations are spread over multiple small islands, there are some nations whose exclusive economic zone is even larger than that of India. Because they're very remote as compared to most of the populous centers of the world population, major nations have been using these places as their nuclear test site as well, most of which now has stopped. The reason why we're discussing this question is because the US recently announced $810 million in new funding for the Pacific Islands in order to counter China's strategy to be friendly with these nations. China, as you know, in the past few years has been trying to come closer to these smaller nations to increase its own sphere of influence, and the American government now wants to counter that. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to small saving schemes. Number 1. The interest rate on small saving schemes are reset on a quarterly basis in line with the movement in benchmark government bonds of similar maturity. Second, the interest earned by the depositor is linked to the market. Third, collections from all small saving instruments are credited to the National Small Savings Fund. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Now, if you look at the first two statements carefully, you will see these two are actually contrary to each other. Either one can be true or two can be true. Because the first one says that the government decides what will be the rate of interest, while the second one says that the rate of interest is linked to the market, means if the market starts to do well, then the interest will increase, and so on. That is why both statements can't be true at the same time. The second statement here is wrong. The rate of interest or the interest that will be earned by a person investing in small saving scheme is fixed. So they are given an assurity of how much money they can expect. Second statement is wrong. 1 and 3 are correct. The correct answer thus is C. Second statement is incorrect. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the government of India recently announced that the interest on small saving schemes in certain cases is being increased. For example, senior citizen savings, their rate of interest will increase to 7.6%, which was earlier 7.4%. So as you know, this is actually a group or a basket of multiple schemes that have been introduced for various sections of the society. Next, question number 4. Consider the following actions which the government can take to reduce the current account deficit. In other words, you have to tell which of these actions by the government will result in reduction of the current account deficit. Devaluing the domestic currency, reduction in the export subsidy, adopting suitable policies which attract greater FDI and more funds from FIIs. Which of these is or are correct? Now, in simple terms, to understand this, remember, when the government wants to reduce the current account deficit, in simple terms, they have to increase India's export and reduce India's import. So if you look at the first statement, devaluing the domestic currency, that means rupee becomes cheaper. So our exports will increase. People outside the country will want to export more things from India so that they can actually have cheaper products from India. So first is true. Second, reduction in export subsidy. See, if the government reduces the export subsidy, then India's exports will become much more costlier. So this will not be in line with the aim of reduction of current account deficit. The third statement also is true because if we have policies which attract more FDI into India, that will also be beneficial for our current account deficit. So the correct answer here would be D. 1 and 3 are correct. The second statement is wrong. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the current account deficit has widened to 2.8% of the GDP in quarter 1 of this financial year. Next is the previous year question from 2019. Recently, India signed a deal known as Action Plan for Prioritization and Implementation of Cooperation Areas in Nuclear Field with which of the following countries? Japan, Russia, the UK or the US. Now, the term recently here suggests it was recently with respect to 2019 and not recently as of today. The answer to this question is actually Russia. It was in 2018 that India and Russia signed an agreement for cooperation in nuclear energy. Under this, it was decided that 6 nuclear power units of Russian design will be implemented at a new site in India. Now, the interesting part here and what you have to learn from here is that we usually read in the news that yes, India and Russia have signed these kind of agreements, but we don't know the official name. And in this question, as you can see, the official name is being asked. So make sure that you actually read official names of the agreements, the significant ones which are signed by India specifically. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we want to discuss about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojna that has been continuing for many months now. And the government of India has decided to extend this scheme for 3 more months. Under this scheme, as you know, the government of India provides free of cost food grains to the poor people in India. This scheme will now be operational until December 2022. This is a scheme underway. The government provides free food grains, that is 5 kg per person per month, to the eligible beneficiaries of the National Food Security Act. However, this is over and above the allowance that they were given by the National Food Security Act. This was introduced especially at the time of the pandemic. This was announced in March 2020 2 days after the nation had gone into a national lockdown after the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. The scheme started just for the first 3 months from April to June 2020, and since then it has been extended time and time again because the government believes that we have a lot of food grains that are still locked up in the storehouses of the Food Corporation of India, and the government can afford to give out these kind of food grains. Also, I'm sure you would have read about the National Food Security Act. There are two categories of beneficiaries under this law: Antyodaya Ann Yojna households and the priority households. While the Antyodaya Ann Yojna households get 35 kg of food grains every month, irrespective of the number of members in the household, the priority households, on the other hand, get 5 kg of food grains every month per member. Thus, if the family is of bigger size, priority households get much more food grains because the Antyodaya Ann Yojna is not changed depending upon the number of members in the household. NFSA, that is the National Food Security Act, is a right-based scheme under which it is the right of the people to get these food grains from the government of India. This is it for today's daily quiz video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day ahead.